Brazil's National Museum engulfed by massive fire. Incalculable loss as 200-year-old Rio institution gutted. The Museu Nacional houses artifacts from Egypt, Greco-Roman art, and some of the first fossils found in Brazil. A massive fire engulfed Brazil's National Museum Sunday, destroying priceless artifacts dating back centuries. Brazil's oldest and most important historical and scientific museum has been consumed by fire, and much of its archive of 20 million items is believed to have been destroyed. Most of the 20 million items it contained, including the oldest human remains ever found in the Americas, are believed to have been destroyed. The museum, which is located in Rio de Janeiro, is a former royal palace that was converted to a museum 200 years ago with exhibitions in biological anthropology, archaeology, ethnology, geology, paleontology, and zoology, according to the museum's website. The fire at Rio de Janeiro's 200-year-old National Museum began after it closed to the public on Sunday and raged into the night. The fire broke out at about 7:30 p.m. in Rio, according to a statement from the Federal University of Rio de Janeiro, which manages the museum. It wasn't immediately clear how the fire began. The museum was part of Rio's Federal University but had fallen into disrepair in recent years. Its impressive collections included items brought to Brazil by Dom Pedro I, the Portuguese Prince Regent who declared the then colony's independence from Portugal. Egyptian and Greco-Roman artifacts, Luzia, a 12,000-year-old skeleton and the oldest in the Americas, fossils, dinosaurs, and a meteorite found in 1784. Some of the archive was stored in another building but much of the collection is believed to have been destroyed. There were no reports of injuries, but the loss to Brazilian science, history, and culture was incalculable, two of its vice-directors said. Firefighters from 7 different stations worked through the night to put out the blaze, but even as flames leaped from the 200-year-old building, Brazilian President Michel Temer said the losses were too great to be calculated. Rio's fire chief Colonel Roberto Robede said the firefighters did not have enough water at first because 2 hydrants were dry. The 2 nearest hydrants had no supplies, he said. Water trucks were brought in and water used from a nearby lake. This is an old building, he said, with a lot of flammable material, lots of wood and the documents and the archive itself. The cause of the blaze is not known. Brazil's president, Michel Temer, who has presided over cuts to science and education as part of a wider austerity drive, called the losses incalculable. Today is a tragic day for the museology of our country, he tweeted. 200 years of work, research and knowledge were lost. Mercio Gomes, an anthropologist and former president of Brazil's indigenous agency, Fundação Nacional do Índio, FUNE, compared the loss to the burning of the Library of Alexandria in 48 BC. We Brazilians only have 500 years of history. Our national museum was 200 years old, but that's what we had, and what is lost forever, he wrote on Facebook. We have to reconstruct our national museum. At the scene, several indigenous people gathered and criticized the fact that the museum containing their most precious artifacts has burned down seemingly because there was no money for maintenance of hydrants, yet the city had recently managed to find a huge budget to build a brand new museum of tomorrow. A crowd of several dozen people outside the gates, several of whom were clearly distraught. Others blamed the government's austerity policies and corruption. Some Brazilians saw the fire as a metaphor for their country's traumas as it battles terrifying levels of violent crime and the effects of a recession that has left more than 12 million people unemployed. The tragedy this Sunday is a sort of national suicide. A crime against our past and future generations, Bernard Melo Franco, one of Brazil's best-known columnists, wrote on the O Globo newspaper site.